I think that lead-in all the way back to the scrambled video is a pretty good metaphor for my Detroit experience. It can be at times a bit off script, oftentimes beautiful, always quite interesting. You'll recognize in my voice pretty quickly that I'm not from around here. My name is Josh MCMANUS, and I've been living in Detroit for the past 4 months, but coming to visit for the past 18 months. I'm an inventor by trade, and I invent things that serve people and help community. So I came here with the idea of talking about Create Here, which was an invention that I was involved in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and Create Here invented things that did the world's largest community visioning process with 26,000 surveys. We trained 500 people how to start their own businesses. We relocated 30 artists to our neighborhood. We granted $750,000 to individual creativity. We had a hell of a lot of fun. We merged 2 kegs of beer with an opera one night. We trained 100 people to be the next generation of leaders in our community, but then I remembered that this is not called Accomplishment Lab, it's called Idea Lab. And so then I thought, well, I'll tell them about D-Hive, which is what I came to Detroit to work on, and that's under an ambition that if we bring thousands of people back into Detroit's core, that can drive a new tax base, new ideas, new generations of change, and that those people to come into Detroit need help with simple things like data on where it's safe to be and where schools are, and they need help with finding real estate because Craigslist is sort of busted in Detroit right now. And they need things like how do we start a project when we have a social project. We've got lots of help for how to start businesses, but not necessarily these social projects. And so that's what I'm here endeavoring to do each and every day, but we're not there yet, and this is not called Ambition Lab either. So what I decided to do was just share some ideas with you that have served me pretty well, and also realized that I was in the middle of this presentation so that you were going to start getting really tired. So I'm going to make you work a little bit, and that I'm going to start spinning these out. Oh. I'm going to try again. I'm going to spin these out. Maybe I'm going to bring these to you, and you're going to ask me about them. And I bet the AV guy is just dying right now. Like, will this thing work? And so, if you've got one of my ideas, then just, when you hear a break, yell it out at me. But the first one I'm going to keep in my hands, which is give everything away except for your time. So I was in Southern California during the dot-com boom, and all of my friends in Southern California were trying to spend all of their time to protect their intellectual property. And it didn't really get them that far. They were millionaires on paper, and now they're sending me their resume saying, what's going on in Detroit? So my observation is I give away all of my intellectual property in order to protect my time. It's the one thing that I value in my life. And I think that's sort of a revolutionary notion for the way we might conduct ourselves moving forward. Information is prolific, time is precious. So who else has an idea that I put on paper? Invention versus innovation. So that's a fascinating one. I got an email yesterday. There was this thing in the New York Times on Sunday, and it said, well, maybe this whole crowdsourcing idea thing is a big problem. Maybe it's a mess. And I sent back an email, and I said, well, I think that's a right and a wrong notion. I think we have to separate the idea of innovation versus invention. So invention is a unique act, a novel idea, something that oftentimes happens in isolation with one or a few people. Innovation can happen in the crowd. So innovation grows things with the sort of moderated gain. But you need to think about whether you're trying to engage in an act of invention or innovation. So like we're doing with the D-Hive right now, if we want to improve a process, that might be an act of innovation. But if we want to invent something or create something that doesn't exist at all, like something that might count the number of people that come to Detroit in a meaningful way, that's an act of invention. What else? Use the buddy system. Okay, so the Nielsen researcher folks did this really cool thing and wrote a book called The Power of Two. And so a lot of you guys are in business school right now. And the Power of Two basically says don't have one CEO, have two. So at Create Here, there were equally platformed co-founders. And we made all our decisions together. And what that did for us was it gave us no blind spots. Whereas I sort of have a tendency to say, we've got to go to the top of the mountain, the co-founder would go, well, we need to pack some warm clothes and take some extra food with us. So I think in the way that we've conceived management to date, there's a really important idea in taking an equal platform approach with it. What else? Edutainment moves the mass. So what we learned with an event called Main Times 24 in Chattanooga was that people come out to be entertained, not to be educated. So if I say, join me, we're going to do something where I'm going to teach you something, well, I might get 100 people. But if I say, I'm going to throw a free concert, I'll get 5,000 people. So the learning that we took was, how do we bring people out to entertain them, which is what we did with a 24-hour festival. But what we did was we had that 24-hour festival in a neighborhood that everybody was scared to go to. And so what they learned was this is a safe place to be. You might want to buy a house here. You might want to do business here. But I think fusing entertainment and education is probably the way we're heading with how we ask people to think about the future. One or two more. And then the rest will just be ideas left on the floor. Money follows passionate action. So I get the question all the time. I've helped, like I say, about 500 startup entrepreneurs and social entrepreneurs, and I get the question, well, where do I go to find money? I raised a lot of money in my career for various things, and I can tell you that when I started working on my passions, when I started working on the cities that I cared about and these ideas that were sort of fueling my mind, I've always had more than ample funding ever since, and rarely had to. I mean, I have to do some things to get it, but it follows me. I get the question all the time now that says, what are you going to do next, and how can I be a part of it? What can I do? How can I invest? So I think stop looking for how do I find money, start looking for how can I pursue my passion, and the money will follow you. And so one final one, because they're shaking the sign at me. Boycott arranged marriage. I'm glad that one got asked. So the human resource system in the United States of America right now oftentimes works like arranged marriage. So I post a position, and you respond to that position. We look at each other's paperwork. We have one formal meeting that's very stodgy, and then we decide if we want to get married indefinitely. Somebody's expectations are going to be let down. So when I say boycott arranged marriage, any of you that are going into hiring, think about it as how do we make this a courtship? So how do we make sure that the person that's on the employment end is enjoying our culture and being a part of it, and that the people that are doing the employing are seeing if this person can perform in increments. So the way we did that in Tennessee was you start with an interview, then a second interview, then a 3-hour project, 20-hour project, more 20-hour projects, and then after we've gotten to know each other for a period of months, then perhaps we'll decide to get married for a period of time, and we make that period of time known on the front end. And that's the same way we'll be operating at DHive. So if you want to follow more ideas that I'm involved in, go to facebook.com/DHiveDetroit, and maybe you can see a little bit more. Thanks.